So you wrote Demolition Angel when you were technically under contract to do another Elvis movie.
That is true.
And you did it in secret.
I lied.
You lied. Okay.
Well,
now, so, I mean, in a way, you were supposed to deliver that book. You got onto a different character. So technically you were kind of having an affair with Carol Starkey at the time. Mm-hmm. Did the illicit writing, the fact that this was wholly new and unexpected, add flair to your writing of your first standalone?
Well, you know, here's what made, no, because it was completely new and different, I was very, very, it was like an adventure in that I had never written from the point of view of a female character before, in prose. I had in my script work. And I found that very, very exciting and challenging. But also, what you mentioned earlier, and that's true. I was under a contract to deliver 3 Elvis Cole novels, and I forget which one Demolition Angel was. But I just published L.A. Requiem, which had gotten great reviews and had done really, really well for me. So common sense would tell you that if you have a success like L.A. Requiem, you immediately follow it with another Elvis Cole Joe Pike novel like L.A. Requiem. I'm not particularly bright. So I had come up with this character about the female bomb technician who had been blown up and killed on the job and then resuscitated, and I wanted to write about her and her trying to put her life back together. So I just started writing it, and I didn't tell, at first I didn't tell my agent, and I didn't tell my publisher or editor about it, but it was just too exciting to stop. So I wrote and finally I told my agent, and he said, oh Jesus, we should tell, we gotta tell him. And I said, but I don't know, let me get some more pages. So we made this deal. I would get like 100 pages before we told him. So during the whole process of writing that 100 pages, my editor at the time would call, he'd say, how's the new book going? He's thinking it's an Elvis Cole book, and I'd say, new book's going fine. But it was never about, so finally we had the 100, whatever it was, 110 pages, and they were getting ready to write ad copy for the book catalogs. So my agent Aaron, he says, listen, I'm going to have to give it to Steve, and because they're going to write the catalog, and so okay, so they gave it to him, and thankfully he loved it, he absolutely loved it. In fact, they loved it so much they gave me more money. I didn't ask for it.
Hey guys, aspiring writers out there, that happens all the time. You should just bank on that.
Yeah.
All right, so Lee Child has several well-documented answers on this front, so I thought I would let you correct the record here if you saw fit. And the question is, of course, if Joe Pike got into a fight with Jack Reacher, who would win?
Lee answered that question?
Lee answered it, and he also claimed that you agreed with his answer.
What did he say?
He said that if I could do a better accent, I would do it, because it sounded so much better when Lee said it. But he said Jack Reacher would obliterate Joe Pike. And Bob
really
knows
say
this.
That?
Yeah.
And he said I knew?
Yeah, he said you knew. Do you
really?
know? Is there a different answer?
Jack Reacher's Joe Pike's bitch. Maggie, tweet it. Tweet it to him right now, Maggie.
All right, so you won People Magazine's Sexiest Novelist in 2001. I'm not sure if you were aware of that. Did you know you won that? Okay, so in 2001, People's Sexiest Novelist, and they haven't awarded it since. So does that mean that technically you are still the world's sexiest novelist?
That is what it means.
Who do you hate? Lee Child. Maggie's head is Maggie's thumbs are cramping up. Angry, punching. What is the most irritating question that you get asked regularly on the circuit? That one. Ask that all the time. Is there any direction that you get questioned that gets annoying or gets old?
where you get your ideas from, you know, that kind of were you ever a police officer? I get that all right. Because my family were all cops, but not me. Yeah, you know, basically they're like the 5 or 6 questions you always get answered. I mean, get asked. But none of them irritate me, actually. They become fun after a while because you think up different lies. I get paid to lie anyway, so I just, you know, spin off different answers from those questions.
All right. What is the worst part of writing for you?
Writing.
Within that, is it sitting down? Work with me here, Crais. Is it starting to work? Is it getting in, trying to find the groove? Is it, you know,
yeah, you know what? That's the worst part of writing is probably trying to focus and find the groove. And over time, you know, that becomes more difficult because, I mean, it's not a complaint. I'm an extremely lucky, fortunate person, and I'm well aware of that, hyper aware of it. But you know, you end up getting pulled in a lot of different directions. So what you have to do is find ways to isolate yourself so that you have the focus time to write. Like I find something I never used to do when I started this game. You know, I worked at home, had my office at home, and I would just start writing. I'd stay there 8, 10 hours a day working. Now what I find is that I have to move around. I actually have to leave my office. I have to, like, I'm good for 2 hours in the morning at home. Then I gotta go somewhere else. Like I'll go to a coffee shop, or I'll go to whatever, the diners. There are different places I go. Because when I go there, I typically there'll be places without Wi-Fi. So there's no internet, you know, people can't reach me. I turn off my cell phone and just have that peace to write.
Mm. And the best part, I assume, is what you were talking about earlier, when you're in the groove, when you feel like it's real.
Yeah.
That groove is the thing that you're looking for.
Yeah, that moment is actually even better. A lot of people think, well, when you finish, isn't that the best? No, it's really because often when I finish a book, I'm not sure whether it's good or bad, whether I like it, don't like it. Sometimes I hate them, and it's not until, you know, months later that I realize just how damn good I am. It's often only those little moments when I'm there in the reality of the book. That's what it's all about for me.
Was there one moment that you realized that your career had broken out or gone over the top, that all of a sudden you were a success on a different level? Was there like one particular moment you can remember that sort of symbolized that?
I'm still waiting for it. No, I'm not facetious when I say that. I guess different people, different writers have different touchstones, but I consider myself like a blue-collar writer. This is what I do, and there's never been like any kind of like super dramatic lightning strike. You know, overnight, everything is radically different moment. You know, they've been all together, I think, 17 books over all these years, and I'm not good, luckily successful now, but it's come like step by step, piece by piece over time. So it's sort of like come in slow motion. Mm-hmm.
So like you slowly realize that the books are leaving just the readers and entering pop culture. I mean, there's more sort of references in different ways. You have a pizza named after you in Venice.
Yeah, you know, there's all kind of cool stuff that happens. I mean, yeah, like the restaurant. There's a restaurant in Venice, California, and they do literary things, and they named one of their pizzas after me, and you know, you end up, they're kind of great, cool things. You know, like you get notes from celebrities, and I'm always amazed when I get, you know, that anyone reads my books. But when people like, and you go, wow, look, so and so reads my book. I got a fan letter from so and so. But again, all of that seems, for me, happened in slow motion, as opposed to, you know, out of the blue you write a book, and next thing you know, it's a worldwide Dan Brown type success, which, you know, is a whole alternative reality shift, as opposed to, you know, someone who takes. I used to joke it was like a 15-year overnight success. It's not. It's a long night. Yeah.
All right, so you came up, as people know, in TV. That was a big part of your early training. What's the best part of TV writing? You know, whether it's working in a room or working in scripts that you could take and that you took to books. Is there some piece of that proves really helpful?
Well, for me, yeah. I was very fortunate. I worked in some really good shows. I was a baby writer in my TV years. That's what I did in the first part of my career. And some of the shows I worked on, like Hill Street Blues and Cagney and Lacey and Miami Vice, it was my good fortune to work with super, super talented, creative people. Those were my teachers, you know, other than the writing workshop that I mentioned earlier. I didn't go to writing school, you know, I didn't major in English or any of that. So my education was working with those people. And because of the nature of those shows, and when you're working with people like, you know, Tony Yerkovich on Hill Street Blues and you know, April Smith and the whole writing staff at Cagney and Lacey, you know, Stephen Bouchercon, I mean, on and on the list, you can't help but be better. I mean, like I mentioned, Demolition Angel as a novel was the first time I'd written a book from a woman's point of view. And when it first came out, you know, I got one of the interview questions, well, you're a guy, and you did. And then I explained to them, wait a minute, I did Cagney and Lacey for a year. And when I was on Cagney and Lacey for a year, every day I worked with Sharon Glass and Tyne Daly. And April Smith, who was our head producer and writer on the show, being schooled in how to write from the point of view of a woman. It was an amazing education, and all those lessons I brought to the novel writing.
What's your favorite TV show of all time?
Star Trek.
Movie.
Casablanca.
There's not a lot of people who are going to not applaud for Casablanca. I thought it was like Weekend at Bernie's. Which writer, living or dead, do you most envy?
Which writer, living or dead, I most envy?
Or you can replace it with admire if envy is too.
Yeah, envy.
Again,
For me, it'd be Hemingway. Huge influence for me when I was like in my high school years and early college years.